Hello there guys, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review, and today I'm going to do a roundup of Rebecca and Zied. And so after 3 failed marriages, Rebecca's finally made a decision. She's decided to make it 4. So unfortunately, it's my contention that Rebecca is the biggest fantasist that God put breath into. Rebecca tells us all that she's in love with Zied, he's in love with her, and that nobody else is likely to be able to understand the close bond that these two enjoy. No Rebecca, nobody else is likely to understand the toxic masculinity that you're about to endure. Rebecca's one of those people that says, I said it out loud, therefore it must be true. Oh Rebecca, not so. You may well manage to bring Zied over, you may even get married. The relationship may even last a year or so, at best. But I can tell you one thing, it ain't gonna last much longer. In my opinion, this relationship is main event, pay-per-view level idiocy. People would pay money to witness this level of stupid. And in fact, what am I talking about? TLC are paying that money. And Rebecca tells us, after 3 failed marriages, I certainly wasn't looking for a relationship. Well, yes you were, Rebecca, because you clicked yes to a guy who was 20 years younger than you. And because you clicked yes to a guy who was contacting you from Tunisia. And finally, because you clicked yes to a guy who was randomly contacting you via Facebook. And it wouldn't surprise me if Zied had spamming software so he could contact women in America even while he slept. Guys, Rebecca never fails me. She's starting the season with her eyes closed and her fingers in her ears. So 2 seasons ago, back when we all had hope, Rebecca met Zied online. And when I say met, I mean catfished the hell out of. She went to meet him in Tunisia. They had a rough and torrid time, punctuated by rare moments of happiness. And then he borrowed $500 from her to buy her an engagement ring, and he asked her to marry him. Rebecca gratefully said yes. However, there were more than just a few problems. When she asked him if he had a criminal record, he replied, I didn't know I needed one. And he said exactly the same about a job. And regarding his employment, I've got a feeling it's going to be an ongoing theme. So Rebecca's got a divorce from her ex-husband, and she's now filed for a K1 visa, and she's just waiting for it to go through so Zied can join her in America. So this week we see Rebecca going boxing with her old boss Melanie. When Melanie said exercise, Rebecca thought she said extra fries, but notwithstanding this mistake she turned up anyway, and they're both doing boxing training. Personally, I think this is a good idea because Rebecca will need self-defense with Zied around. And when they finish their boxing class, Melanie and Rebecca sit down to have a chat. And Melanie, as we remember, was a PI and she used to work with Rebecca previously. And Melanie seems to remember the salient points from this relationship. Number 1, Zied has no work history. And number 2, Melanie remembers back to when Rebecca's ex-husband had much the same problem. But Rebecca doesn't want to hear about this. Rebecca tells Melanie, we love each other and you'll see when he comes over. So guys, you'll remember that Melanie did a background check on Zied and she found that Zied had literally no work history whatsoever. When Rebecca tackled Zied about this, Zied got really fidgety and agitated, and then he said that all the jobs he'd had previously, being a waiter and getting audiences for a TV station, all paid him cash in hand. And that's why he doesn't appear to have paid tax ever in Tunisia. So Rebecca thinks that Melanie is over suspicious because she's a PI. Oh Rebecca, you used to be a PI. Why didn't you check out Zied before you went over to Tunisia? The answer is Rebecca doesn't want to know. Rebecca lives in hope about Zied and she always wants to close her eyes to any potential problems. Rebecca never ever wanted to know about Zied's background. And honestly, I don't really understand why, because she tells us that she's still recovering from her ex financially. That's the husband before Zied. He was from Morocco and also 20 years younger than her. And she said she's still got bad credit, and she says she's still finding it very difficult to get over the burden that he placed on her financially. And last week we saw that she was moving out of her own apartment and moving in with her daughter and her daughter's fiancé in order to save money when Zied comes over. And surprise, surprise, her daughter and fiancé weren't particularly impressed either. But the main thing I want to talk to you about from last week's episode was Zied's sister and the simply quite shocking display of disloyalty from Zied when Rebecca had a chat with his sister. So Zied was talking to Rebecca over FaceTime and they were discussing the visa situation, and he was at his sister's house. So she said, oh, let me have a chat with your sister. And his sister came onto the screen and Rebecca said, hey, how are you? And she looked at her and said, fine. And she didn't ask at all how Rebecca was. And then we were reminded by TLC of the problems that they had last time when Rebecca met his sister. and they had dinner, and Zied's sister was laughing openly in Rebecca's face when Zied said, "Who was your ex before your ex?" And she was laughing at her and saying, "How many times you've been married? Oh my God, you are a joke." And again on this call, she was really off with her, and Rebecca said, "I hope that Zied's visa gets approved." And his sister said absolutely nothing and just stared down the screen at her. And then Rebecca said, "I promise I'll take care of him." And she said, "I hope that you do." And then there was another very uncomfortable silence. And Rebecca said, "Well, it was really nice to speak to you." And she just said, "Okay, bye." And off she went. And Rebecca said to Zied, "She's still got a problem with me." And Zied said, "Yeah, she's not at all happy." And Zied, the least you could do is say, "This is my fiancé. I'm in love with her. Please treat her with respect. Please do not be rude to her. Please do not openly laugh in her face." And this suggests to me that his sister knows he's not in love, and that's why she can just ride roughshod over Rebecca and Rebecca's feelings. So this suggests to me that he doesn't take this relationship seriously, and he isn't one bit concerned about the feelings of Rebecca. Now, lots of people, including myself, think Zied just wants to get his green card, but we've seen many couples on this series that have wanted to get a green card, but they are also in love with the person as well. So it's a kind of 2 for 1, but in this relationship I don't see that duality of purpose. I think that he just wants to get over to America, and in no way is he in love with Rebecca at all. Last season, as I said earlier, he bought her own engagement ring with her money. He was also at one point quite physically abusive with her, and he grabbed around her neck when he was unhappy with her. And this is a problem, I think, which is waiting to explode. He seems like a very angry character, and just as a sidebar to that, the couple are going to be living with Rebecca's daughter and her fiancé, and her fiancé seems somewhat of an alpha male himself, and I've got a feeling that those two are going to butt heads sooner rather than later once Zied is living under the same roof as him. So that's yet one more problem that we need to look out for. And I've got a feeling that when this relationship is over, Rebecca's going to have the sort of broken heart that you're unable to fix with memes. And next time we see Rebecca, she's going to buy a video game console for Zied. What? Yes, you heard that right, a video game console. Why? Well, Rebecca explains to us that Zied's going to have about 6 months whilst he's waiting for his green card, and he's not going to have anything to do. So she's decided he can just sit around her apartment and play video games all day. Later on, she's going to buy him some sweatpants and a wife beater, and she asks the shop assistant in the video game shop, "What should I buy?" And she's explaining the different consoles to her and finding more about what she wants. And one of the main things that Rebecca wants from this console is that it hooks up to the internet. You can attach a credit card and he can buy video games through it. Oh good lord. So while you have no money and you're paying for him to live and all his food and rent and whatever else he needs and the whole of the K1 visa process, you also want to pay for video games and consoles. At this point I can only say, Rebecca, you're making a rod for your own back. If Zied is going to be not able to work for 6 months and stuck at home and needing something to do, the Ebird's got a handy list of things that he could potentially do in this time, which I think would be a far better use of his time. Number 1, he can take English classes, and not just the spoken word. He can speak pretty good English, but not amazing, but also how to write English. I'm pretty sure he's probably not that good at it, so she can pay for him to take an online course. Number 2, he can learn a vocational skill. He can do an online course in maybe carpentry or home improvement skills, something with which he might be able to get a job when his green card finally comes through. Number 3, they could set up an online business and have him do the administration. And this is quite simplistic to do. You can buy things from China for pennies and then sell them online at a profit. It might only be a very small profit, but it can be set up in Rebecca's name, and Zied can be administrating it and helping to post things out. Number 4, he can help around the house and make sure that he cooks and cleans and maybe has dinner ready for Rebecca when she gets back from work. Number 5, he can take up a hobby, painting or bird watching, anything. Number 6, and this is quite a good one, he can prepare himself for the job market. He can work on his CV and make it as good as possible. He can learn what's required for the interview process in America and do practice interviews online. Or number 7, he can decide to volunteer. Maybe he can work at a charity shop or in some other way work for a charity helping vulnerable people. But it seems as if neither Rebecca nor Zied have thought of any of these things. Guys, I may be wrong on this, but I don't think playing computer games bodes well for the future. And then the last time we see these guys this week, Rebecca's talking to Zied just after his interview with the embassy regarding the K1 visa. And I've got to say, when Zied gets online, it looks like he's lost a lot of weight. He's lost the weight from his face and is far better looking than I remember him before. And who knows, perhaps now he's finally able to fit into his football kit. And Zied tells Rebecca he's not sure how things went, but they took his passport and that he's got to come back in 1 week. This tells the Ebird that if they're taking your passport, it's so they can put the relevant stamps in and the relevant documents, because he has indeed got his K1 visa. But Rebecca tells us she thinks he may be denied because she's undertaken this process before. And I think by now we all know that this is fake TLC based drama. But if we were ever unsure about this, Rebecca hammers it home because she hams the whole thing up too much. She said, "I wish they would have told us today," and "I can't believe we have to wait 1 more week. I wish we could know right now, Zied. And again, this will be the longest week ever. And finally, I won't be able to sleep for a week." Oh, Rebecca, you're putting 20 on 10. You know good and well if they've taken his passport, you know what that means. Like you said yourself, you've been through this process before. And then once again, Rebecca tells us she hopes everything works out because this is her last shot at love. Rebecca, we're all bored with this last shot at love narrative. You're 49, not 79. And that's where we leave proceedings for this week. So if you haven't guessed already, it's the Ebird's contention that this relationship isn't set to go well. And here are the reasons that I think this relationship is doomed. Firstly, Rebecca garners literally zero respect from Zied. He bought her engagement ring with her own money, so he hadn't saved even a little bit of money whilst he was in Tunis. Knowing that he was probably going to propose to Rebecca, he had to ask her for the entire amount he needed for the ring. And also he put his hands on her when he was unhappy that he found out she was still married. Now, of course, Rebecca was wrong for this, but there isn't any excuse for you to get physical with somebody. And Rebecca, there's really no excuse to accept this sort of behaviour. And also, as I said previously, his sister shows her less than no respect, and Zied lets her get away with this. And the second reason is the video games. They're not looking towards their future. She wants to placate Zied and to make him as happy as possible whilst she's out working 12-hour days in a restaurant, trying to make ends meet for both of them. The third thing is they've had no proper conversation on what Zied plans to do for work when he arrives in the US. This is a really big deal because it's going to be hard for him as an immigrant to get a job. So they really need to work on this and think about this before the time comes. And the fourth thing is he has no real job skills. So before, he was working as a waiter in little cafes and so on. And then also he was getting audiences for a TV station. I'm not sure how transferable these skills are, but I don't think they're going to command a great amount of money. He needs at his young age to learn a skill or to learn a trade so he can actually forge some sort of career for himself. And then the fifth reason is they don't really know each other. She went to Tunisia for about 3 weeks. And they had a very torrid up and down time during that time. It wasn't 3 weeks of complete bliss. And it seemed as if she was somewhat desperate for him to marry her. And she overlooked any problems that they had in the relationship. Her ex was manipulative and controlling, and Zied shows the same traits. But Rebecca still sought to ignore these traits in Zied and say, "I hope he doesn't turn out to be controlling. He's already shown himself to be controlling when you were in Tunisia. So he already is that. So why do you think it's going to be any different when he gets here?" Oh, Rebecca, most people learn by osmosis, but Rebecca's so stupid, you have to scream any information directly into her ear, and even then, she still seeks to deny it. And I've made a little pie chart here for the chances of these two still being in a relationship once Zied gets his hands on his green card. And I don't know about you, but I think these percentages are quite accurate. And when I look at Rebecca, I always have to ask, what is it you're smoking that allows you to live so comfortably in denial? So guys, let me know what you think about this relationship. Do you think it's going to work, or do you think, as I do, there's absolutely no chance? What do you think the biggest hurdle is going to be to get over in this relationship? Is it going to be financial? Is it going to be Zied's attitude and his domineering personality? So please let me know in comments down below, and I will see you very soon with another video. If you haven't yet, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It's a great time over here, and don't forget to click the notification bell and smash the like button. You've been listening to Ebird Online. That's about everything from me. I bid you good day.